The palace was quiet now, the chaos of the Krell assault finally behind them. Fires had been extinguished, debris cleared, and the council chamber secured. Delegates were weary but alive, and a sense of cautious relief settled over the entire building. Ryan Hale and Princess Lyra stood side by side, watching as repairs and reassurances spread throughout the palace. Ryan stretched his arms, feeling the tension leave his muscles. "We did it. I have to admit I didn't think we'd survive that one so cleanly." Lyra smiled faintly, though exhaustion was evident in her posture. "Cleanly? No. Effectively. Yes. You and I. We make an unusual but formidable team." Ryan laughed softly. "Usual is exactly what humans do best. We make the impossible seem possible, usually by accident, but sometimes on purpose." Lyra tilted her head, studying him with her sharp, thoughtful gaze. "You are a remarkable human, Ryan Hale. Not for your strength or your cleverness alone, but for your courage and your unwavering loyalty." He felt warmth in his chest at her words. "I could say the same about you, Lyra. You are more than your title, more than the princess everyone respects. You're fearless, smart, and honest in ways most people aren't." For a few moments, they simply stood there, side by side, letting the quiet of the evening settle over them. The stars stretched endlessly above the city, calm and serene after the storm. The council reconvened the next day, this time with a renewed sense of unity. Delegates from multiple worlds praised the efforts of Ryan and Lyra, recognizing that, without their courage and cooperation, the Krell might have succeeded in starting a war. Speeches were made, gratitude expressed, and alliances strengthened. But Ryan and Lyra were not content with speeches. They wanted to ensure that the galaxy remained safe, that such threats could be detected and stopped before they reached this scale again. Over the following weeks, they worked tirelessly together. Ryan trained human security forces in strategies that combined improvisation and clever tactics, while Lyra instructed Zethri warriors in techniques that emphasized agility, precision, and foresight. Together, they created a joint task force, a new alliance of humans and Zethri, trained to protect the galaxy from hidden threats. During one training session, Ryan noticed Lyra laughing, something he had come to cherish. She was demonstrating a complex maneuver, her movements fluid and exact. While the human recruits tried to keep up, "You are relentless," she said, finally pausing, a grin on her face. "Even in training, you find ways to challenge everyone around you." Ryan shrugged playfully. "I call it keeping things interesting. If humans and Zethri can't work together in peace, how can we survive in war?" Lyra laughed softly, shaking her head. "Perhaps you are right. Perhaps humans have a wisdom in your chaos." Their bond continued to grow, strengthened by shared experience, laughter, and trust. It was no longer simply a partnership. It was a deep friendship, one that bridged the gap between species, showing that humans could stand not just as allies but as equals. One day, while overseeing a coordinated patrol near the council's borders, Ryan and Lyra received a message from the Krell. It was a threat, disguised in diplomatic language, promising that the attack was only a test, a warning of what was to come. Ryan frowned. "They're still testing us. They want to see how much we can take." Lyra nodded, her metallic eyes reflecting the light of distant stars. "Then we show them that humans and Zethri will not be intimidated, that we are prepared, that we are united." They devised a response strategy, not of retaliation, but of preparedness. Defensive systems were upgraded, patrols increased, and intelligence networks strengthened. Ryan and Lyra coordinated seamlessly, their decisions measured and effective. Their alliance became a model for other species in the galaxy, a demonstration that trust and cooperation could overcome even the most cunning enemies, even as the galaxy stabilized. Ryan and Lyra continued their personal bond, the small gestures, the shared jokes, the quiet smiles. The words "sweetie" and "darling" remained between them, secret language of trust and friendship that reminded them of the chaos they had survived together. During one quiet evening, Ryan and Lyra sat on the observation deck, watching a meteor shower streak across the stars. "You know," Ryan said, leaning back against the railing, I never expected my human life to involve saving alien princes and preventing galactic wars. Lyra smiled softly. I never expected a human to change my perception of the galaxy so profoundly. You have shown courage, patience, and humor in equal measure. Perhaps the galaxy needed someone like you. Ryan grinned. I like the sound of that, and I like having you as a partner in this chaos. Makes the danger more bearable. Smile widened, her voice gentle. It is more than bearable. With you it is possible. As they watched the stars together, they realized that the galaxy was vast and unpredictable. Threats would always emerge, challenges would appear, and danger would continue to lurk in hidden corners. But they had learned something vital. With trust, courage, and teamwork, even the most impossible odds could be overcome. News of their actions spread throughout the galaxy. Humans gained respect as not just survivors, but as innovators, leaders, and heroes. The Zathri learned that collaboration with humans could be both effective and inspiring. And for the first time, species across worlds began to look at humans with admiration rather than skepticism. The Krell, for their part, retreated into the shadows, aware that their plans had been thwarted. They remained a threat, but the alliance of humans and Zathri had grown stronger, ready to respond to any future challenge. In the council palace, a celebration was held. Delegates laughed, shared stories, and honored the bravery of Ryan and Lyra. Even amidst the formalities, the bond between the human captain and the alien princess was evident. They had faced danger, deception, and chaos together, and they had emerged victorious. Ryan leaned close to Lyra during the festivities. So, sweetie, think we'll get a quiet night ever again? Lyra laughed softly, shaking her head. Perhaps, but I doubt it. The galaxy is not a quiet place. Ryan grinned. Then we'll face it together. Chaos, danger, and all. Lyra smiled warmly, her metallic eyes reflecting the lights of the palace. Yes, together. As the celebration continued, Ryan looked around, feeling a sense of pride he had rarely known. Humans had been underestimated, doubted, even ignored across the stars. But in this moment, he saw clearly that courage, ingenuity, and trust could elevate a species beyond expectation. And beside him, Lyra, princess, warrior, and friends stood as proof that even in a galaxy filled with mystery, danger, and complexity, bonds could be forged across species, creating a force stronger than any threat. Together, they had not only survived, they had inspired, united, and protected countless lives. And as the night stretched on, with laughter, music, and light filling the palace, Ryan and Lyra knew that whatever challenges came next, they would face them as one. The galaxy was vast. The dangers would never end. But humans and Zathri, working together, had proven something profound, that courage, trust, and friendship could overcome even the greatest darkness. Ryan took a deep breath, feeling the quiet strength of the moment. Sweetie, we've done something incredible here, and somehow, I think this is just the beginning. Lyra nodded, a soft smile on her lips. Yes, darling, the beginning of a new era for humans, for Zathri, and perhaps for the entire galaxy. And under the endless stars, two unlikely friends, human and alien. Warrior and princess stood together, ready for whatever adventures awaited. Their laughter, trust, and courage would echo through the galaxy. A testament to what could be achieved when species work together, believing in each other and never giving up. For Ryan Hale and Princess Lyra, the future was vast, bright, and filled with infinite possibilities. And they were ready to face it side by side, fearless and united. The calm before the storm lasted only a few days.
Ow.
Ryan Hale could feel it in the air, the tension in the council halls, the hurried footsteps of guards, the subtle shifts in the posture of alien delegates. The Krell were patient, but their patience had a limit. And Ryan, with his keen sense for danger, knew that the next move would be sudden and violent. Princess Lyra, moved beside him as they walked through the palace corridors. Her expression was calm, but Ryan could see the tension in her eyes. The Krell had already proven their cunning, infiltrating communications and spreading false reports. Now, it seemed, they were ready to escalate their attack. "They are bold," Lyra said quietly, "and dangerous. They will strike when we least expect it." Ryan smirked. "Then we make sure we're expecting them. No surprises this time."
There.
Moment of quiet was shattered by the sound of alarms. Red lights flashed across the marble floors, casting long shadows. A voice boomed through the palace speakers. "Security breach. All personnel, report to defensive positions immediately." Ryan and Lyra exchanged a look. This was it. The Krell had launched their assault. They raced through the halls, dodging falling debris and panicked staff. Explosions rocked the palace, shaking the floor beneath their feet. Ryan grabbed Lyra's hand instinctively, pulling her toward a secure stairwell. As they reached the observation deck, they saw the scale of the attack. Krell drones swarmed the palace, their metallic bodies glinting under the council's lights. Fires burned in distant corridors, and the sound of combat echoed across the chambers. Ryan clenched his fists. They didn't come here to negotiate. They came to destroy. Lyra's eyes blazed with determination. "Then we will show them that humans and Zathari will not be so easily defeated." The two moved swiftly, coordinating with the palace. Security. Ryan led human guards, his tactical mind already forming strategies. Lyra directed Zathari warriors, their movements precise and deadly. Together, they became a seamless team. Combining human ingenuity with alien skill, they reached a hall where Krell drones had trapped several council delegates. Ryan and Lyra acted without hesitation. Ryan threw a small device that emitted an EMP pulse, disabling the drones temporarily. Lyra used her martial skills, striking with precision, taking down the remaining attackers. As the hall cleared, Ryan turned to Lyra. "Ready for more fun, sweetie?" Lyra smirked. "Always, darling." They moved from corridor to corridor, clearing the palace and rescuing trapped delegates. Each step was a challenge, each encounter more dangerous than the last. But Ryan's quick thinking and Lyra's skill kept them alive. In the central council chamber, the heart of the palace, the Krell had set up a command drone, coordinating the assault. Ryan and Lyra knew that if they could destroy it, they could turn the tide of the battle. They approached cautiously, using debris and shadows for cover. Ryan tossed a small explosive device, drawing the drone's attention. Lyra moved silently, her movements swift and precise, and struck the drone's control panel with a specialized Zathari blade. Sparks flew, and the drone's systems failed. Sending it crashing into the floor, the Krell assault faltered. Without their command drone, the coordinated attack began to collapse. Ryan and Lyra rallied the palace defenders, organizing counterattacks and securing key positions. Slowly, the tide turned, even as the battle raged. Ryan found moments to glance at Lyra. She was fierce, focused, and unyielding. Her courage inspired everyone around her. Felt a deep respect for her, mixed with something more, a connection that had grown over the past days of shared danger and laughter at one point. A Krell agent appeared in the chamber, cloaked and armed. Ryan reacted instantly, throwing himself in front of Lyra as the agent fired. Using a combination of human agility and quick reflexes, he dodged the attack and countered, disabling the enemy. Lyra moved beside him, her blades striking with precision, ensuring no further threat remained. "Are you hurt?" Lyra asked, concern flickering in her eyes. Ryan shook his head, smiling. "Nothing a human can't handle." Lyra's expression softened. "I am fine, but we must focus. The Krell are still out there." They continued to move through the palace, clearing rooms, rescuing the injured, and coordinating defenses. Every step was dangerous, every moment a test of skill and courage. But their teamwork was flawless, their trust in each other absolute. As the battle reached its peak, the Krell attempted a final, desperate strike, a massive drone aimed at the council chamber itself. Ryan and Lyra reacted instantly. They raced to intercept it, combining strategy and precision. Ryan used a human-made EMP device to weaken the drone, while Lyra struck critical points with her blade. Sparks flew, and the drone crashed into a distant wall, unable to complete its attack. The remaining Krell forces, seeing their plans unravel, retreated. The palace was battered and scorched, but the council was safe. Ryan and Lyra stood together in the central chamber, catching their breath as fires smoldered around them. Ryan looked at Lyra, admiration and relief shining in his eyes. We did it, against all odds. Lyra nodded, her expression both tired and proud. Together, we have proven that humans and Zethari are stronger than any threat. As the council members emerged from hiding, they began to assess the damage and treat the wounded. Gratitude and respect were directed toward Ryan and Lyra. Their bravery had saved countless lives and preserved the council from collapse. Later, as the palace quieted and the last of the alarms were silenced, Ryan and Lyra found themselves on the balcony once more. The stars above stretched endlessly, serene and beautiful after the chaos. You are incredible, Ryan said quietly. Have never seen anyone fight like you. Lyra smiled faintly. And you, Captain Hale, are more than I expected from your species. You are courageous, clever, and persistent. Ryan laughed softly. Persistence is my specialty, and it looks like it's paying off. Lyra's eyes met his, a subtle warmth in her gaze. It has. Today you saved more than the council you. Saved lives, trust, and perhaps even the future. Ryan felt a rare sense of fulfillment. He had faced countless dangers, but this was different. This was about unity, trust. In proving that humans could stand as equals among the stars, they stood together in silence, letting the calm of the night sink in. The galaxy was still vast and dangerous, but they had faced the worst and survived, and they had done it together. Ryan finally grinned, nudging Lyra playfully. So, sweetie, same time tomorrow? Another adventure? Lyra laughed softly, shaking her head, perhaps. But for now, we rest. Tomorrow we rebuild and prepare for whatever comes next. As they looked out at the stars, they both knew the truth. The Krell were not defeated, only delayed. The galaxy would continue to challenge them, testing their courage, intelligence, and friendship. But Ryan and Lyra were ready. They had faced the storm, and they had survived. Together, they could face anything. For the first time, Ryan felt a deep certainty in the chaos of the galaxy. It had allies, friends, and trust things that no weapon or strategy could replace. And with Lyra by his side, he was ready for whatever the universe had in store. The night air was quiet, the stars bright and endless. Ryan and Lyra shared a final, quiet laugh, their bond strengthened by battle, trust, and shared courage. The galaxy had tested them, and they had proven themselves stronger than any threat. And as they turned back toward the palace, ready to help, rebuild, and prepare for the next challenge, they knew one thing with absolute clarity. No matter what dangers awaited, they would face them together, human and alien, fearless and united. The calm that followed the exposure of the Krell plot did not last long. Even as the council celebrated the revelation, Ryan Hale knew that true danger was only beginning. The Krell were clever, patient, and ruthless. They didn't make mistakes, set traps, and waited for others to fall into them. And Ryan had learned long ago that underestimating an enemy was often the fastest way to lose. Princess. Lyra moved through the council palace with a composed elegance that contrasted sharply with Ryan's more relaxed stride. But beneath her calm, she felt the tension of the moment. The Krell's subtle manipulations had shaken the council's confidence. Now, whispers circulated among delegates, cautioning that humans could not be trusted even if their actions had saved the day. Ryan noticed it. Even the allies who had cheered for him yesterday now watched with careful eyes, measuring his every move. It didn't bother him. Humans were used to skepticism. What mattered was that he and Lyra had each other's trust. That was enough for now. That night, the princess invited him to the observation deck. The galaxy stretched before them, countless stars and distant planets shimmering in silent beauty. "They are clever," Lyra said, her voice soft but steady. "They will not give up so easily. The Krell are patient predators. They strike when you least expect it." Ryan leaned against the railing, his arms folded. "Then we make sure we expect it. We can't fight their patience with more patience. Fight it with action." Lyra studied him for a moment, then smiled faintly. "You are bold, Captain Hale. It is. Unusual. Most humans act without thinking, but you," Ryan grinned. "Think a little before I leap. Just enough to survive." "Hey." They shared a quiet laugh, the stars above them reflecting in Lyra's metallic eyes. But the laughter faded as the night deepened. Danger was out there waiting. The next day, a new series of attacks shook the council. Several communications arrays were sabotaged. False reports of troop movements were broadcast, and a minor explosion occurred in a nearby human-controlled sector. Panic threatened to spread, but Ryan and Lyra moved quickly, analyzing each incident. "In finding patterns, these are all designed to create mistrust," Ryan said, pointing to holographic displays. "They want the council to fracture. They want humans and Zathari to blame each other before the Krell make their real move." Lyra nodded, her face set with determination. "We cannot allow that. If we fail, the war they want will begin. Thousands, perhaps millions, will die." Ryan clenched his fists, feeling the familiar rush of purpose. "Then we stop them. Together." Their investigation led them to a hidden storage facility on the outskirts of the council's headquarters. Intelligence suggested that the Krell had been stockpiling weapons, preparing for a surprise attack. Ryan and Lyra agreed they had no choice but to infiltrate the facility and gather proof before anyone else could be harmed. As night fell, they approached the facility, hidden by shadows and dim lights. Ryan moved with careful precision, his senses alert for any traps or patrols. Lyra, her metallic skin shifting subtly with emotion, followed closely, using her knowledge of Zathari's stealth techniques to avoid detection. Inside the facility, they discovered rows of advanced Krell weaponry, drones, and communication devices. Ryan's eyes widened. They're planning something big. This isn't just sabotage, they're preparing for a full-scale attack. Lyra's expression hardened. "We must stop them before it is too late. We cannot allow the council to be caught off guard." They moved quietly, taking photos and copying data to transmit later. Every step was tense, each sound echoing like a warning. Then, unexpectedly, a patrol appeared. Ryan ducked behind a crate, signaling to Lyra to stay silent. The aliens passed by, their senses sharp, but not sharp enough to detect the two intruders. Once the coast was clear, they continued deeper into the facility. Finding a control room filled with monitors displaying council movements and security systems, the extent of the Krell's infiltration became horrifyingly clear. They had mapped every entrance, every patrol route, and even some human security protocols. Ryan ran a hand through his hair. "They know everything, almost everything." Frowned. "Almost is enough. If we expose this, the council can act in time." As they prepared to leave, an alarm suddenly blared. Ryan cursed under his breath. "They've found us. Move." Lyra reacted instantly, using a Zathari maneuver that disabled the nearest security drones. Ryan followed, relying on his reflexes and quick thinking to navigate the corridors and avoid capture. Their escape became a thrilling chase, weaving through narrow passages, ducking under beams, and leaping over obstacles. Finally, they reached a secure transmission point. Ryan uploaded the stolen data, while Lyra monitored the process. The evidence would reveal the Krell's plot to every council member, exposing the danger and giving them a chance to prepare defenses. As the last file transmitted, Ryan exhaled, feeling a mix of relief and adrenaline. That should do it. Council will have everything they need now. Lyra nodded, a faint smile on her face. And we remain undetected. For now, their moment of triumph was brief. Outside, the sound of engines and alarms echoed through the facility. The Krell were not finished. Ryan glanced at Lyra. We're not out of this yet. Ready for another adventure, sweetie? Lyra smirked, her eyes flashing with determination. Always, darling. Let us see if your courage matches your words. They escaped the facility just as reinforcements arrived, slipping into the night and disappearing among the shadows of the city. For a moment, they stood together on a rooftop, catching their breath. Ryan looked at her, feeling a rare sense of connection. We make a good team, you know that? Lyra tilted her head, a playful smile on her lips. Yes, a human and an alien princess. Who would have thought? The following days were filled with tension. Council meetings became urgent and strategic, as delegates adjusted plans to counter the Krell threat. Ryan and Lyra worked tirelessly, sharing information, coordinating security, planning contingencies. Despite the danger, their bond grew stronger. Each challenge they faced, each narrow escape, and each shared laugh reinforced their trust in each other. They were no longer just allies, they were partners in the truest sense, relying on courage, intelligence, and understanding. One night, after a particularly grueling council session, Ryan and Lyra found themselves alone in the palace gardens again. The stars above shimmered, reflecting in Lyra's eyes. You are reckless, Lyra said softly, and yet, somehow you survive everything. Ryan chuckled. Luck, skill, and stubbornness. Mostly stubbornness. Lyra laughed quietly, the sound blending with the gentle hum of the gardens. Perhaps, but I admire your bravery. Humans have a fire within them that many species lack. Ryan shrugged modestly. We do what we must to survive, and to protect the ones we care about. Lyra's expression softened. Then perhaps you are not just a human. You are something more, something extraordinary. Ryan smiled, feeling a warmth he had not known before. And you, Lyra, are more than a princess. You are a fighter, a leader, and a friend I trust with my life. For a moment, silence stretched between them. Then Ryan laughed lightly. I suppose the galaxy might not be ready for two such extraordinary people working together.
Lyra
Smiled, nudging him playfully. Perhaps not.
yet.
But the galaxy has no choice. We will face it together. And so, under the stars, they made an unspoken promise. Whatever the Krell planned, whatever dangers awaited, they would face it as a team, human and alien, brave, clever, and united. Little did they know, the Krell had already begun their next move. A force more dangerous than sabotage, more terrifying than deception, was preparing to strike. And when it came, Ryan and Lyra would need every ounce of courage, skill, and trust they had built to survive, protect the galaxy. As the wind whispered through the gardens and the stars shone brightly, above, they laughed together once more, clinging to the light of hope in a universe filled with shadows. The adventures ahead would test them in ways they could not yet imagine, but together, they were ready. For the first time in a long while, both human and alien felt a flicker of certainty. The galaxy was vast, dangerous, and unpredictable. With trust, courage, and friendship, they might just change the course of history. The days after the first council sessions were tense, but for Ryan Hale, the tension had a strange rhythm that he almost enjoyed. Every corridor of the council palace seemed alive with whispers, the shuffle of robes, and the occasional harsh command in alien tongues. Humans were careful to stay out of the way, moving in small groups, trying not to draw attention. But Ryan had never been one to follow instructions too closely. Princess Lyra had become a quiet curiosity in his days. Whenever the schedule allowed, she would find him during breaks, walking through the gardens, or on the balcony overlooking the glittering city outside. It was in these stolen moments that Ryan discovered just how complicated and fascinating her world was. You really don't follow any rules, do you? Lyra asked one afternoon as they walked along a garden pathway. The path glowed faintly, embedded with tiny crystals that lit up with every step. The scent of alien flowers, sweet and metallic, filled the air. Ryan shrugged casually. Rules are suggestions. I prefer trying things and seeing what happens. Lyra raised an eyebrow. Suggestion or trouble? Some of your species have a habit of causing both? Ryan laughed. That's true. but trouble can be fun if you survive it. Lyra glanced at him, her eyes narrowing slightly. You have a strange way of seeing things, but I admit it's refreshing. Ryan grinned. Refreshing, huh? I like that. Humans are often underestimated, you know? People forget that we've survived worse than a palace full of alien politicians. Lyra laughed softly, the sound melodic, almost like music drifting on the wind. It made Ryan feel lighter, as if the weight of responsibility and danger had eased for just a moment. But the peaceful laughter didn't last long. Back inside the council chambers, whispers were growing louder. Some of the delegates were uncomfortable with the growing closeness between the human officer and the alien princess. There were rumors, predictions, and even veiled threats. A few council members quietly met in shadowed corners, discussing how this friendship could influence votes, negotiations, and the balance of power. Ryan noticed it, of course. Humans had a sixth sense for danger, and his experience in the field had sharpened it. Something was off. Certain factions seemed too interested in monitoring him, while others whispered to the princess, trying to sway her opinion against him. Ryan didn't panic. He thrived on these moments, the subtle chess game of politics, espionage, and survival. It wasn't long before a sudden incident confirmed his suspicion. During a routine exchange of information, a message arrived in the Council's communication system, falsely accusing Earth of sending troops to a border station under attack. The evidence looked solid, precise, almost convincing. Many delegates began to murmur angrily, blaming humans for what seemed like a deliberate provocation. Ryan frowned. That's too neat. Someone wants us to look guilty. Lyra, standing beside him, felt a strange tightness in her chest. It is impossible for humans to act so quickly. The evidence. It is fabricated. Together, they began investigating quietly. While others argued and debated, Ryan and Lyra moved through corridors, reading logs, observing security feeds, and talking to staff. Their different approaches worked surprisingly well. Ryan's intuition and boldness balanced Lyra's methodical intelligence and insight. Late one night, they discovered a clue. A hidden recording of a previous meeting had been altered. Faces were blurred, voices slightly mismatched, but Ryan's keen eye noticed the imperfections. Look at this, he whispered, pointing at a tiny frame where a Krell agent's emblem appeared for just a split second. Someone's framing us, and it's the Krell. Lyra's eyes widened. The Krell Dominion was notorious across the galaxy for their schemes. They were a secretive, manipulative species, always seeking to turn allies into enemies and peace into war. They want conflict between humans and Zathri, she said softly, a sense of dread creeping into her voice. Ryan clenched his fists, feeling a familiar thrill of purpose. Then we stopped them, quietly, efficiently, and without giving them a chance to succeed. The following days became a careful dance. During council sessions, they acted as if nothing were wrong, laughing quietly at inside jokes, sharing subtle glances, while secretly tracking messages, contacts, and suspicious movements. Their growing friendship became a shield against the dangers lurking behind polished smiles and ceremonial robes. One evening, as they pored over the council archives, they realized how bold the Krell's plan was. They had planted communications, forged military orders, and even created fake witness accounts, all pointing toward a human attack on a border station. If the council believed it, war would erupt before anyone could stop it. Ryan rubbed his chin thoughtfully. We need to catch them red-handed, no mistakes, no assumptions. Lyra nodded. We'll have to move at night when the guards are minimal. I can disable internal sensors. You handle. They planned their mission carefully, combining human improvisation with Zathri precision. By nightfall, they were ready. Slipping through shadowed corridors, avoiding patrols, and using hidden passages, they reached the archives. The building was quiet, almost eerily still, except for the soft hum of energy fields protecting the data cores. Inside, Ryan and Lyra worked seamlessly. He handled the physical locks and security measures with human ingenuity, improvising tools and using techniques he had learned in survival missions. Lyra manipulated the Zathari systems, her glowing fingers dancing over holographic controls, bypassing encrypted firewalls and protective measures. Hours passed, tension rising with every step. A single mistake could mean capture, or worse. Finally, they found the Krell's tampered logs, the digital fingerprints left behind like a trail of breadcrumbs. Ryan's eyes widened. Got it. This is solid evidence. No one can claim humans did this. Lyra nodded, relief flooding her features. We need to copy it and expose them immediately. But as they prepared the files, the unexpected happened. Security sensors, reactivated by a late patrol, began to flash. Red lights bathed the archive, and a voice announced, "Intruders detected? Security teams incoming?" Ryan's jaw tightened.
Right.
"Time to move, sweetie." Lyra gave him a sharp look, a flash of humor in her eyes despite the danger. "Only if you can keep up, darling." They moved quickly, dodging security teams and alarms. Ryan used a mix of human agility and quick thinking. Zathari reflexes and technical skill guided them through hidden corridors. It was a dangerous dance, and more than once they narrowly avoided capture. Finally, they reached a secure transmission terminal. Ryan sent the evidence to all council delegates, ensuring that the truth would be known before the Krell could manipulate the situation further. Lyra monitored the transmission, confirming that every message reached its intended recipient. As the alarms faded and the last security patrols passed, they finally stopped in a quiet corridor, catching their breath. Ryan turned to Lyra, grinning. "Despite the adrenaline, not bad for a night's work, huh?" Lyra laughed softly, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "You are reckless, Captain Hale, but effective." "I have to admit I enjoy working with you," Ryan smiled. "The feeling's mutual, sweetie." They shared a brief laugh. Their earlier sweetie darling exchange now a small anchor of familiarity in the chaos around them. It reminded them that even in danger, even in the complicated world of politics and espionage, they could still be themselves. The next day, when the council gathered again, the human and Zathari delegations were tense. But thanks to the evidence Ryan and Lyra had exposed, the Krell's plot was revealed, and the council moved to secure peace instead of blame. Delegates whispered and glanced at Ryan and Lyra, realizing that these two individuals, one human, one alien princess, had prevented a war that could have destroyed countless lives. Despite the praise and relief, Ryan and Lyra knew this was only the beginning. The Krell would not stop. Their ambition and cunning were far from finished, but they had proven that humans and Zathari could work together. That courage, ingenuity, and trust could overcome deceit and manipulation. That evening, as they met again on the balcony, overlooking the glittering city, Ryan nudged Lyra playfully. "Not bad for a human and an alien princess team, huh?" Lyra smiled, shaking her head. "You are insufferable, Captain Hale, but yes, we make a good team." Ryan grinned. "Good enough to save the galaxy?" Lyra laughed softly. "Let's not get ahead of ourselves." But yes, perhaps. And as they stood there, side by side, the stars stretching endlessly above them, both understood something important. It was not only courage, skill, or strategy that mattered. Sometimes the smallest gestures, a laugh, a shared joke, a moment of trust could change the course of events in ways no one could foresee. They didn't yet know what dangers lay ahead. But one thing was certain. Together they were stronger, smarter, and braver than anyone expected. And in a galaxy filled with intrigue, betrayal, and conflict, that was exactly what they needed to survive. For Ryan Hale and Princess Lyra, a new adventure was beginning, one that would test their friendship, courage, and loyalty in ways they had never imagined. And they were ready, laughing, trusting, and determined to face whatever the galaxy could throw at them next. The vast chamber of the Galactic Council gleamed under soft floating lights, each reflecting off the polished floors like tiny stars caught in glass. Delegates from hundreds of worlds had gathered, their voices mixing in a complicated hum of alien languages, For most humans, even stepping into the council for the first time was overwhelming. For Captain Ryan Hale, it was just another mission. He had faced black holes, meteor storms, and pirate fleets. But negotiating with aliens in fancy robes and long flowing gowns, that was a new kind of challenge. Ryan adjusted the cuffs of his uniform, making sure his human insignia was polished and clearly visible. Humans had always been underestimated in the galactic political scene. Some called Earth a minor world. Others thought humans were reckless and unpredictable. Ryan, of course, liked the last part. Being underestimated had its advantages. You could act, strike, or joke, and no one expected it. He looked around the chamber. The Zathri delegation stood out immediately. Their skin shimmered like soft metal, changing color depending on their mood ores, so Ryan had read. Their eyes were slightly larger than humans. Their movements had a natural elegance that spoke of centuries of ritual and tradition. At the center of the group stood Princess Lyra Velnaris. Her presence alone seemed to silence the chatter nearby. She was tall, regal, and poised, every movement precise. Most delegates were careful not to look directly at her, afraid her sharp eyes might read their intentions. Ryan, however, was not most delegates. He stepped forward, his shoulders relaxed, a faint smile playing on his lips. He had a reputation for doing things differently, sometimes foolishly, but often successfully. He had been told that diplomacy with the Zathri required careful bows, measured words, and no hint of humor. He suspected that a small spark of chaos might be exactly what this tense gathering needed. When he approached Lyra, he saw the slight furrow in her brow. She was scanning him, probably wondering why a human would dare step so close without bowing. Ryan gave her his most disarming grin. "Hey, sweetie," he said casually, ignoring every protocol manual in his brain. The chamber went silent. Some delegates gasped. Others froze mid-step, unsure if they had heard correctly. Ryan, meanwhile, was waiting for her reaction, curious to see if his gamble would backfire. Princess Lyra blinked. She tilted her head slightly as if examining a strange artifact. And then, almost unexpectedly, a soft blush colored her cheeks, and she said, "Yes, darling." The effect was immediate. The tension in the room seemed to shift, aliens murmured. Glances exchanged between humans and Zathri, whispers about this bold or foolish human officer. Ryan couldn't help but laugh quietly, his eyes meeting Lyra's. She gave a small, almost shy smile. It was a tiny thing, but in the political world of galactic councils, it was enormous. "Relax," Ryan said under his breath, just loud enough for her to hear. "I don't bite. Mostly." Lyra's lips twitched, barely containing a laugh. It was unlike anything Ryan had expected. He had read all the briefings about Hercule, precise, unyielding, but in this moment, she was human-like. In her reactions, the kind of moment that made him feel there was more to this princess than her royal title. The rest of the council session began. But Ryan and Lyra's brief interaction had already created a ripple. Delegates couldn't help noticing the small smiles the brief looks exchanged, the subtle body language that suggested something unusual was happening. Some envied the human for his audacity, others worried. But no one could deny that, for a brief moment, the room felt less tense, less dangerous. After the session, Ryan was guided to a side room where humans were expected to wait while ambassadors and nobles mingled. He leaned against the wall, arms crossed, still grinning from the interaction. He knew he had broken the ice, but more than that, he had sparked curiosity in Lyra, dangerous, fascinating, and possibly useful curiosity. A soft voice called his name. "Captain Hale," the voice said, calm but amused. He turned and saw Lyra stepping into the light, her posture still regal. But her expression softened. "You seem to enjoy making a spectacle," she said, her voice smooth, melodic. "With just a hint of humor, I call it efficient diplomacy," Ryan replied with a shrug. "Why waste time with all the stiff bows and complicated rituals when you can make people laugh instead?" Lyra's eyes narrowed slightly, but there was amusement behind her gaze. "It is unusual. Humans are always unpredictable, it seems. And that's exactly why we're interesting," Ryan said. "If everything's predictable, where's the fun?" Lyra tilted her head, considering him. For a moment, they simply studied each other. It was a strange pause, silent but filled with an unspoken understanding. Then, unexpectedly, she laughed. A small, genuine laugh, soft and musical. Ryan grinned, feeling a strange sense of victory. It's not political victory, not military victory, but something far rarer. He had made the alien princess laugh. In the days that followed, Ryan found that his informal greetings became a small ritual. Every time he said, "Hey, sweetie," Lyra would respond with, "Yes, darling." And each exchange felt lighter, freer, as if they were creating a world of their own amidst the strict rules and tensions of the council. It wasn't just a joke, it was a bridge. However, not everyone appreciated this bridge. Behind the grandeur of the council, there were whispers of unease. Some delegates worried about the implications of a human connecting so closely with a royal figure. Could it be used as leverage? Was it a distraction? Or worse, a threat to carefully laid plans? Ryan didn't care. He knew he had something far more powerful than protocol or caution, trust and genuine connection. One evening, as the council sessions wound down and the stars outside the chamber shimmered in the galactic sky, Ryan and Lyra found themselves alone on a balcony. The wind carried a faint metallic temps, the signature scent of the Zathari homeworld. They leaned against the railing, looking at the distant planets and glittering stars. "You know," Lyra said, her tone softer than usual, "humans are far braver than I expected. Or foolish. Maybe both." Ryan chuckled. A bravery and foolishness are often the same thing, depending on who's telling the story. Lyra looked at him, a faint smile on her lips. "Perhaps. But you make it seem effortless. How do you do that?" Ryan shrugged. "Simple. I don't overthink things. I do what feels right, even if everyone else thinks it's wrong. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But you never know unless you try." Lyra considered his words, silent for a moment. Then she laughed quietly again, a soft sound that mingled with the night wind. "I think I understand you, Captain Hale, and I think I like it." Ryan felt a warmth in his chest, a rare feeling that had nothing to do with battle plans or diplomacy. It was the feeling of connection, of finding someone who could match your humor, your spirit, and your stubbornness. And for the first time, human and the alien princess laughed together, not as officer and royal, not as diplomat and delegate, but simply as two beings enjoying a fleeting moment in the vast, complicated galaxy. Little did they know, this moment, small and seemingly insignificant, would set the stage for adventures, challenges, and dangers far greater than either of them could imagine. The galaxy was watching, and their connection was about to become a force no one could ignore, as the stars stretched endlessly across the sky. Ryan looked at Lyra and said quietly, "Next time, I'll teach you a human joke that's so bad you'll either laugh or throw me into space." Lyra smirked, shaking her head. "I think I might do both." And for that night, with the galaxy vast and dangerous all around them, they simply laughed to unlikely friends, sharing a moment that would change everything.